In a scenario, one we probably all recognize. Someone, maybe pretty successful, well-respected,
Right.
has the means, you'd think, but, well, their actual home, it's surprisingly simple, maybe even a bit run down.
Mm-hmm. And people start to notice.
Exactly. They start talking, whispering maybe, his house is no good. Why doesn't he build something grander?
That external judgment, that social pressure, that's actually the perfect starting point for our deep dive today.
It really is.
We're looking at a really powerful piece, Hason Raja's poem, Loki Bole Bole Ri, which translates roughly to, oh, they say.
And Hason Raja himself, for anyone maybe not familiar, just a fascinating figure, a 19th century mystic poet from Bengal, also an aristocrat, a landowner.
Yeah, he had the status. He definitely had the resources.
He did. And yet, this poem, one of his most famous, it centers entirely on resisting the urge, or maybe the pressure, to build a big permanent home.
And that's our mission today, really, to give you a shortcut kind of into the deep spiritual thinking packed into this seemingly simple poem.
We're going to unpack that clash, that tension between, material life and spiritual awareness.
Focusing especially on how mortality, just knowing you're going to die, and the sheer uncertainty about what comes next. How that drove his choices. It turns a simple critique about a house into, well, an existential crisis.
Let's jump right in then with that external conflict, because like you said, that's what sparks the whole thing. The poem kicks off with that judgment. Oh, they say my house is no good.
It's that societal pressure, isn't it? People demanding he focus on the visible stuff, the material proof of success, the big house, the legacy.
Yeah, it's like, in today's terms, maybe they're judging his LinkedIn profile or his car or whatever the modern version of the grand house is.
Exactly. Show us the proof of your worldly success, Hason.
And his first response, right in the first stanza, it pushes back immediately. He says something like, but what can I build with nothing here?
Okay, and this is where it gets interesting, because you could take that literally.
Right. If you didn't know he was a wealthy landowner, you might think, oh, he's just poor. No money for bricks.
But that completely misses the deeper point, the mystical perspective. If you see him as someone actively trying to detach from worldly things, then nothing here isn't about money.
It's about, what, spiritual lack?
Yeah, spiritual poverty, you could say. He's basically asking, why pour my limited time, my energy, my soul, my only real resource into building something physical, something temporary?
So it's like, you want a fancy house, but I feel spiritually empty when I focus on that. It's a total rejection of their priorities.
Precisely. It's a kind of intellectual, spiritual comeback. The world wants him to build something permanent on Earth, and he's saying the soul feels empty when it's just focused on gathering stuff.
Yeah.
Earthly things are ultimately meaningless.
That resistance is powerful. But pushing back against society like that, it must lead somewhere internally, right? A deeper question.
It does. That brings us to the moment where he actually considers it. He thinks about building the house, but then immediately asks himself, yet how long will I truly stay?
Ah, the pivot point, the external criticism forces him to look inward.
Exactly. He moves from maybe a philosophical stance to a really personal, almost brutal realization about his own life being temporary. And the poem gives us such a vivid image for this. He looks in a mirror.
That mirror moment. It's so relatable, isn't it? That's when he sees it.
Noticing the strands of gray in my hair.
Just that small detail. But it changes everything.
It's the undeniable proof, isn't it?
Don't know.
Time's ticking. The gray hair is this stark, physical reminder of aging, of the shortness of life, as the poem puts it.
Right. If you're building something permanent, something to last, that gray hair just completely undermines the whole point.
It shatters the premise. It's like contemplating a huge investment, a 30-year mortgage maybe, and then suddenly you get a health scare or hit a big birthday and you think, wow, time is really finite.
Yeah, why spend years planning the perfect extension if you suddenly feel like your time in the house itself is limited?
That's the core analogy. The building might last longer than the person living in it. So the whole effort starts to feel, what's the point? That awareness of being temporary makes building something permanent seem almost absurd.
Okay, so he has this realization. Life is short, mortality check. What does he do about it? Because realizing it is one thing, acting on it is another.
Well, that reflection leads directly to the action, or rather the inaction stated in the poem. Thinking about how temporary everything is, Hason Raja makes his choice clear. He never built a dwelling.
Total detachment.
The ultimate expression of it, yeah. But here's the really fascinating part. It doesn't seem like a calm, peaceful decision.
Ah, Okay, so there's an emotional cost. It wasn't just some intellectual exercise in minimalism.
Not at all. It seems driven by something deeper, maybe closer to fear. He wasn't just thinking about when he'd leave the earthly house. His mind jumps straight to the next, much bigger uncertainty.
Which is?
A terrifying question that replaces all the focus on material things. Where will Allah take him? Where will he find rest?
Ah, the existential dread. It's not about the physical house anymore. It's about the eternal destination, the spiritual unknown.
Exactly. His real anxiety is about his destiny after death. And the poem is very specific about the emotional impact. It says, this uncertainty brings him to tears.
Wow, so he's actually crying over this.
Yeah. He's confused, maybe afraid. That emotional turmoil about his ultimate spiritual fate just completely overshadows any desire for worldly comfort or looking good to others. The spiritual stakes feel too high and too unknown.
That really reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? It's not just him being proudly anti-materialist. It's more like the pressure to build a house here just highlighted how unprepared he felt for his home hereafter.
Perfectly put. And that leads us to maybe the most poignant part, the fourth stanza. It explores the what if, the path not taken.
Right, this is where he imagines things being different. He's rejected building because life is short and uncertain. But he says if he had known his days, if there was some certainty about his lifespan.
Then, he says, he would have painted his rooms in vibrant hues.
Vibrant hues. Not build a palace, interestingly. Just paint. Make it colorful.
It's such a rich line. It suggests that if the timeline was fixed, if he knew exactly how long he had, he would have allowed himself to make his temporary space joyful, beautiful. Knowing the end date would grant permission to really live in the present moment, aesthetically.
That points to a real internal conflict, then. He sees the potential for beauty and joy in life, in the world.
For sure.
But the unpredictability, the not knowing when it all ends, forces him down the path of detachment, of focusing only on the spiritual.
It's that trade-off, isn't it? Potential present joy versus preparing for the uncertain future. Because life is unpredictable, he prioritizes the spiritual journey. But mentioning the vibrant hues, that's a clear nod to the worldly joys he felt he had to sacrifice. He would have embraced the beauty if only that bigger eternal question mark wasn't hanging over him.
So let's bring this back to us, to the listener today. Maybe someone listening is thinking about, I don't know, a big purchase, renovating, climbing the career ladder. What can we take away from this 19th century mystic and his housing dilemma?
Well, the core wisdom feels timeless, right? Life is short, it's temporary, and it's deeply uncertain. Hason Raja's struggle kind of forces you to look at our own tendency to chase permanent status symbols.
The big house, the fancy title, the perfect online profile.
Exactly. We chase these things when our own time to enjoy them is completely unknown.
And that central conflict is so clear. Material life, what society pushes on you, versus the spiritual life, preparing for whatever comes next. He really highlights the futility of worldly pride.
And his choice, his aversion to building, it stemmed directly from that gut-level realization of temporariness and the fear, the anxiety about the afterlife. It wasn't just a preference, it was a consequence.
So if we're connecting the dots for you, the listener looking for that insight, the main message seems to be a call for redirection, maybe?
I think so. Don't get too attached to worldly stuff, to building things that seem permanent, because life itself isn't. The focus maybe needs to shift towards things that do endure, whatever that means for each person.
And remembering that for Hason Raza, this wasn't an easy breezy choice. It came with tears. It came with sacrificing the vibrant hues, the potential joys.
Right. It was a heavy decision.
So we've gone from this simple social critique, hey, your house isn't good enough, all the way through this profound spiritual crisis about time, destiny, all anchored by that image of gray hair in the mirror. It's quite a journey in just a few lines of poetry.
It really is. And maybe as we wrap up this deep dive, let's linger on that last thought.
Yeah.
Hason Raza said if he knew his time, he'd paint his rooms vividly.
Yeah.
Now, if his big struggle was the futility of building something permanent in a temporary life, what if we flipped that? Here's something maybe for you to mull over. What if we decided to build and to paint our temporary spaces, despite the uncertainty? What if we treated those vibrant hues, the joy, the creativity, the beauty, right now, not as a distraction from the unknown future, but as a celebration of the present moment, however limited it might be?
Choosing joy, choosing the vibrant hues, even without knowing the final timeline. Yeah, that's definitely something to think about.
Something to consider.